How we doing today, everybody? There are two people happy that they're here today. Let's try that again on a Saturday in August in Georgia where we're not burning to death. How we doing today, huh? Let's go. On behalf of the whole staff and volunteer crew here at the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame in the city of Dawsonville, my name's Doug Turnbull from 11 Alive News and Performance Racing Network, and we are so happy you're here for our 2025 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductions. And I'd like to go ahead and give an early round of applause to our inductees and their family here today. It's going to be a big day. We're going to learn a lot about Mike Helton, Fulmer Lance, Ethel Mobley, Bob Morris, and Johnny Thomas, and their many, many accomplishments on and off the racetrack here. But before we do that, we need to get our spirit centered, we need to get our soul centered, our mood centered, and we also need to eat. All right, that's a big deal. A lot of you came just for food, I understand. No. So first we're gonna stand up and do the national anthem sung by Georgia Racing Hall of Fame guru Cody Densmore's beautiful wife, Stevie Densmore. Give her a round of applause, please. And please stand for the national anthem.
Do you mind if I take it out? Okay. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
How about it? That gets us right to it. All right, and today we're going to spend time not only honoring our Hall of Fame inductees, but also the wonderful people that make this place go round and make this all possible. The here first to welcome us to the Hall of Fame is the Hall of Fame president, and a name you probably know really well. Tireless efforts from Cindy Elliott and her whole team of putting this all together. So let's please welcome Cindy Elliott up to the stage here for opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cindy Elliott, and it is my great honor and privilege to welcome all of you to the 2025 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Today, we gather in this special place to celebrate the rich legacy of Georgia motorsports history and to honor 5 extraordinary individuals who have left an indelible mark on the sport that we love. Each year, this ceremony gives us the opportunity to reflect, remember, and rejoice in the stories of those who have helped shape racing on the track, in the garage, behind the scenes, and in the hearts of fans across generations. Today, we proudly induct the class of 2025. Mike Helton, a true statesman of the sport whose leadership and vision helped guide NASCAR into a new era while always staying grounded in the values that built it. Fulmer Lance, a fierce competitor and respected figure in Georgia's dirt track community, remembered not just for his wins, but for the passion that he brought to every race. Ethel Mobley, one of my favorites, a pioneering spirit, a trailblazer for women in racing. Ethel competed fearlessly alongside her famous brothers and helped pave the way for future generations of female drivers. Bob Morris, a dedicated mechanic and car owner and innovator whose quiet contributions made loud impacts both on and off the track. And Johnny Thomas, a hometown champion and mentor who has inspired many along the way and is known as much for his sportsmanship and kindness as he is for his competitive edge behind the wheel. We honor them not just for their accolades, but for their character, their grit, their unwavering love for the sport of racing. Each of these individuals has made an indelible impact, not only on Georgia, but in the broader racing community as well. And we are proud to enshroud their names in our Hall of Fame today. Today is also a moment to give special thanks to all of those who volunteer their time and talents to our beautiful facility. You are the heartbeat of the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, from greeting guests to maintaining the exhibits to planning events or simply just sharing stories with visitors that come through. Your efforts are felt in every single corner of this building, and we could not do it without you. Special thanks also go to the nominating committee led by Rick Mentor and his daughter Stephanie Adamek. The remembrance and celebration of these extraordinary individuals would not be what it is without your tireless efforts. We would also like to take a moment to recognize and warmly welcome our esteemed past inductees who have joined us this evening. Your continued support and presence inspires the next generation of racers and reminds us of the strength and depth of our racing heritage. Thank you for being here, and now please stand so that we can recognize all of you. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention our founder, Mr. Gordon Perkle, who due to illness could not be here with us today for the very first time in our history. I spoke with Gordon earlier and have a personal message that I would like to share with all of you from him.
I miss everybody. And I want to congratulate all the new inductees we have.
This place, as all of you know, would not be what it is without his vision, and we dearly miss him. Our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. Thank you to the Station House Restaurant and your staff for providing this meal today. Additionally, we're deeply grateful to Mr. John Woodruff, who I see just walked in, his son John and his daughter Allie, who represent the Roughwood Foundation, our top donor for the last several years. Your generous support allows us to preserve this hallowed space, honor our heroes, and educate future fans and families about Georgia's racing legacy. Thank you, Mr. Woodruff, for your remarkable commitment to our mission. As a reminder, we are a 501c3 registered organization. We are a nonprofit, and we are sustained by donations and the passion of our volunteers. So if you are inspired by what you experience here tonight, we invite you to consider making a contribution. Every gift, no matter the size, helps us preserve this legacy for future generations. Every contribution makes a lasting difference. All you do is simply text the word RACE to 707070 and you can donate today. To our inductees and their families, thank you for sharing your lives and your legacies with us. And to everyone gathered here, thank you for being a part of this celebration. Let's honor the past, embrace the present, and accelerate into the spirit of the future of Georgia racing. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed mayor of Dawsonville, who will get this show on the road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome everybody here to the city of Dawsonville. Hope everybody enjoying our beautiful town here. And I want to start off this afternoon thanking the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame and the staff here invite me to come back, be a part, just a small part of this ceremony this afternoon. And congratulations to all the new inductees of 2025 for the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. Here recently, we did a proclamation here in the city. If I could read it so everybody knows what it is, and then after I get done reading it, I would ask for the individuals who's being inducted to come up. I'll give you a copy of the proclamation if the person's here or a family member when I read your name one at a time. It states, whereas the City History Museum, proud home of the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, seeks to honor and recognize the individuals who have made the significant contributions to the world of motorsports in Georgia. And whereas Dawsonville, Georgia is given the honorable distinction as the birthplace of stock car racing. Whereas we acknowledge our pride in the heritage and the roots of Georgia and its significance in motorsports, as well as the contribution made to its history by those who have been inducted in years past. And whereas future candidates must exemplify the highest standards of sportsmanship, ethics, and moral character. And whereas the nominee must be current or former resident of the state of Georgia or a significant contribution to race in the state of Georgia. And whereas the committee shall consider all nominees' overall impact on Georgia motorsports, their racing accomplishments, and their contributions to the motorsports community within the state. And whereas we acknowledge the diligent efforts of esteemed committee, including Rick Minner, a dedicated member since 2002, chairman since 2015, and an integral part of the original committee in overseeing the nomination and selection process for inductees. And whereas the nominating committee has selected the following individuals that meet the aforementioned requirements in the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, has accepted Mike Helton, Fulmer Lance, Ethel Mobley, Bob Morris, and Johnny Thomas as the official 2025 Class of Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductees. Now therefore, I, John Walden, Mayor of the City of Dawsonville, do hereby proclaim Mike Helton, Fulmer Lance, Ethel Mobley, Bob Morris, and Johnny Thomas as the official 2025 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductees, and recognize their significant qualifications and contributions made to the field of Georgia motorsports, to which impact can still be recognized today. In witness, therefore, I here to my hand and cause the seal of the city of Dawsonville to be affixed on this 21st day of July 2025. So, Mr. Mike Helton, if you could, first one. Mr. Fulmer Lance. Ethel Mobley. Bob Morris. Last but not least, Mr. Johnny Thomas.
I come here once a year so I could hear the sound of my own voice. All right, no, hey, we hope everybody enjoyed lunch, and I want to give just a quick, at least golf clap, a real round of applause to Station House. That was excellent, huh? Got your protein, your veggies, your dessert, and got your spodioti. I mean, we're in good shape. Which is a reminder, the distillery, I believe, is open out there after the show. Don't drink and drive. Hey, but anyway, we're gonna get this started. Now we're giving out some hardware, and I'm not talking about on your honeydew list. We're gonna honor some important inductees. We're also gonna remember people in our Georgia racing community that we've lost in this last year. I know that's very close to our hearts. And we're, of course, gonna honor the people that make this place go around. As Cindy said so eloquently earlier on, not only does this place run on donations, but it runs on man and woman power, right? People that come here volunteer and are on staff. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring up our president, Cindy Elliott, again, and she is gonna honor those very people.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed your meal. I thought it was very tasty. It is my honor to present the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame Media Appreciation Award. We present this today, and it's from our board of directors in recognition of the outstanding dedication of different journalism, just exceptional journalism in the community. So there's a particular group that has just done an amazing job of commitment to recognizing our sport and everything that we do, and they're just always here whenever we have an event, or if we're raising money for the Humane Society. It doesn't matter what we're doing, they're always here to support us. And so today we would like to recognize Julia Hansen and Rio White. And I don't think Rio is here with us, but Julia, I think you are somewhere. So our next award is called the Annie Dean Spirit Award, and it's also presented by our Georgia Racing Board of Directors, but it honors outstanding dedication and tireless support of just the true spirit that each individual that has in the past received this award and currently is about to receive this reward for everything they do for the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. The Annie Dean Spirit Award celebrates an individual who embodies passion, generosity, unwavering commitment to preserving our racing legacy, and just selfless contributions. Just a can-do spirit that makes a lasting impact, as you all know. And so today we are proud to recognize and honor with this special award Scott Adams. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have the Volunteer of the Year Award, which is voted on by all of the volunteers with deep appreciation for your outstanding service, dedication, and countless hours of volunteer work that help keep our Hall of Fame running smoothly and welcoming to all. Your passion and reliability, willingness to just do whatever it takes, wherever it takes you. You are truly making a difference, and we are grateful for your continued support. We're proud to honor our 2025 Volunteer of the Year, Paul Reynolds.
All right, another hand really quickly for our Volunteer of the Year Social Media Award, Annie Dean, the Annie Dean Spirit Award, and also to Cindy Elliott for presenting those, all right? A lot of hard work done around here. And as far as the media stuff, this is not a plug of anything of mine, okay? But I want to give a big shout out to Cody Dinsmore. I'm sure many of you know, but Cody Dinsmore runs PeachStateSpeed.com. which does great recaps on many, great profiles and stories on Georgia racing history. And I'm sure there's plenty of links to it on other sites you enjoy, but go to peachstatespeed.com. If not, you can follow him on Facebook, and I'm sure on other social media. I see it on Facebook because I act like a boomer sometimes. And but to go to peachstatespeed.com, Cody Dinsmore does a great job preserving Georgia history. We also want to remember the people that are the foundation of this. Of course, there's ones that are here being inducted, and we're happy for you. 3 of our 5 inductees over the years have been deceased, and we also want to remember the people that have passed away in the last year. So we're going to put names up on the screen, our memory lane, and I'm going to say each one out loud as they scroll through. Of course, as you feel led, be in a prayerful mode here for not only the families, but also the close friends and anyone that knew those that have passed away. Robert William Kenzie, Scott Bloomquist, Andy Knowles, Bobby Allison, Paul Goldsmith, Troy Pruitt, Jack Rucker, Freddie Lorenzen, Michael Sharpnick, Bobby Bates, Bobby Pryor, Gene Winfield, Wesley English, Jack Jackson, Jackson Croft, Gary Dingler, Rex White, and Johnny Brown. I want to prayerfully remember them, and I'm sure many of you are familiar on the Jackson Croft story. As a teenager who just begun his racing career at Dixie Speedway and lost his life tragically, I believe, on Lake Ackworth. So we really want to thank especially his family. Of course, I've been talking to Mike and friends of Rex White back there. A lot of people in here knew Rex White, Jack Jackson, and so many of them. So we remember them. Now what we'd like to do is induct our 2025 class. This is really special. For those that don't know how it works, there are a group of people, I'm honored to get to be a part of it, that send in their votes based on people that have been submitted as applicants for inductees over the years. And based upon those votes, the top 5 there's a list of them that are chosen, and then a smaller group of people meets to pick the top 5. So without further ado, I want to invite up someone who is instrumental in that process, he and his daughter both, and that is Rick Mentor. Rick's going to be here on the stage to take pictures with our inductees, and I'll explain how this works while Rick comes up. We're going to say the inductee's name, and then either that person or the people that are accepting on their behalf are going to come up to the stage. We'll present them with the award here, and those getting the award will come stand to my left and take a picture of Rick. Tom over here, who's a wonderful volunteer. Tom is going to be taking the picture. We'll see a short video about them, and then they'll have some brief words as well. So that's how these next few minutes are going to go. And without further ado, Rick, let's get this thing started. We first want to talk about Washington, Georgia's Fulmer Lance 2025 inductee. So here's some on Fulmer Lance.
My dad, Fulmer Lance, he was a late model dirt track race car driver. He started out in 1966 was his debut race, and he won it. He won it at Tri-County Speedway. And his passion for racing and love of dirt track racing in particular was sparked at that moment. My dad raced for over 4 decades, so keeping up with the amount of races he competed in is difficult for me, especially because he started racing about 11 years before I was born. So a large part of my life was spent at the dirt track races, and I absolutely loved it.
I was working at a garage, and Fulmer and the garage owner had gotten together to build Fulmer's first, what we call the real race car. And so I helped them and worked on the car and traveled with them. And we turned around, we built a new car the next year, a little faster, a little better car. And we got to win in a few races.
Daddy mostly raced in the Southeast, and he competed against some heavy hitters, some great wheelmen of the dirt track circuit. He beat some drivers including Mike Duvall, Jack Pennington, Doug Kennemer, Scott Bloomquist. Those are just to name a few that I remember from my childhood.
Back in those days, one of the highlights of our racing was we went up to a little track in Franklin, North Carolina called Rainbow Raceway. On a Thursday night special, as Doug Kennemer, another Hall of Famer, said, we sneaked off and won one. But the highlight of it was Fulmer spun out coming out of turn 4, coming out of the flag stand backwards at the track record. So that was a good start. They were advertising we were going to be there next year before we even got the car built.
I have been able to be a part of different dirt track forums on Facebook, and it's really neat to go on there and see pictures that are posted of my daddy and comments that are posted under there. And many comments say that he was such a clean driver and just a kind, gracious man on the track, off the track, in the pits. And it's wonderful to hear other people say that about daddy. But just as a child, it was super cool because my dad was a race car driver.
Fulmer was just a good driver. He really matured through the years. And when they got into the wedge cars and the wing cars and the sideboard cars, he really excelled in those. He wasn't afraid to go deep into the corners and do what it needed to come through. He would have been really proud to be included among the drivers and people that are in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just so thankful for the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame for this opportunity for him to be inducted so they can keep his legacy alive and others can see the accomplishments that he's made as a dirt track driver. And our family, the Lance family, is just very thankful for this opportunity.
How about it? Fulmer Lance is a 2016 National Dirt Late Model Hall of Famer. He won some of the sport's biggest races, as you see in your program right here, like the Spring National 100 in Savannah, among others. And he raced for 40 years, all right? So it says his career started in 1956 at age 22. That means Andy Griffith was barely on TV when he started his career, and Seinfeld was at the height of its run on TV when he ended his career, all right? If that doesn't show some range, I don't know what does. Eisenhower to Clinton, Andy Griffith to Seinfeld. Let's bring up, Fulmer Lance is no longer with us, so let's please bring up two people who are extremely important to him. His daughter, Sasha Quarles, and his longtime friend, Robert Turner.
They said to keep this short, but they don't know me. I started helping Fulmer at an early time in his career, and we kind of grew together. And unfortunately, he made a telephone man out of me, and I've been doing it 50-something years. But Fulmer was born and raised in Blairsville, Georgia. If you don't know what that is, that's the mountains of North Georgia. Fulmer was no stranger to going around a curve real fast. So when Tri-County opened, it was just natural for him to start racing. He won his first race, and the following year he decided to go late model racing. Him and Tommy Jackson at Tommy's Garage built a late model, 56 Ford. So you heard some of the results of that. We raced all over the country with that old car and built a few more through the years. And then he went to racing with the Twiggs, Randall Twiggs, and driving the number 88. The number 88 followed him throughout his career, so I reckon it was a good look number for him. He was a gifted driver, won a lot of races with Randall at Sugar Creek, Canton, Tri-County, and over in South Carolina they won many races, and won at Timmonsville, South Carolina. He won the dirt track championships held at Cleveland Speedway. Later driving his own 88 with great success, he teamed up to drive Lincoln, Georgia, number 55 Camaro of Doug Evans in 1979. In February, he would defeat a stellar field of racers in the North-South Challenge at East Alabama Speedway in Phoenix City. A month later, he beat all the best drivers in the nation. Won the NDRA Association's Winners 100 at Pearson Speedway in Louisville, Mississippi. Fulmer was a semi-regular that year and wound up 9th in points. So that was a pretty good operation. Some of his major wins is a World Series of dirt track racing in Anderson, the Spring Nationals in Savannah, Ernie Causey Invitational and multiple Azalea 100s at Somerville, the Turkey 100 at Concord, and the Folders 100 at Timmonsville. He also earned several track championships at Gordon Park, Winder Barrow, Anderson, and Tri-County, North Carolina, where in one abbreviated season he captured wins in 13 out of 16 races. He won the track crown. He also got the checkered flag at the end of the season at Anderson, South Carolina, where he won 13 out of 18 races that year. Throughout the years on the old Fulmer drove for a grocery bag full of owners, from Twiggs to Evans, Billy Morris, J.R. Foster, Harley Hall, and several more that I know I've left out. He was picked for the team car for Gigolo at Jimmy's Speed Shop, competed all over the nation at Pennsboro. He competed in the 84 Dirt Track World Championships and had over 400 wins, 100 of them with J.R. Foster. Whoop, coordination. Talking about Doug Evans, I'm gonna have to put a little anecdote in here. We were at Dixie one night. Fulmer was driving Doug's car. He got slammed sideways between 1 and 2. Well, the EMTs come over there. Doug's name's on top of the car, and they want to know how Doug is doing. Fulmer, not being Doug, he didn't answer. Well, next thing you know, he's loaded up in the ambulance going to the hospital. But that was one of the many things that you always have some good, funny things happen, some bad things happen in racing. Fulmer was a humble man who never really after fame. He won many trophies but gave most of them away. It was once said about Fulmer, he didn't race to be famous, he raced because he loved it. He had relocated to Washington, Georgia, lived with his wife Jeannie and children Renee and Sasha. He was an engineer at Wilkes Telephone until his retirement and was a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and unfortunately Fulmer passed away in 2017. Fulmer is remembered as a great racer, family man, and best you can say about someone who's a good friend. Thank you. I got to tell one on Johnny Thomas before I leave. Back when Johnny was about 16, I guess, we happened to find an old Ford body there around his place. And I had an old motor, and we were going to build him a hobby car. Well, Johnny's daddy found out about that, and the next thing we knew, the old car was down there in the pasture and a big hole crushed. So there went our racing career to start with. But anyway, Johnny made it though finally.
Another hand for the late Fulmer Lance and his family, now officially a Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductee. How cool is that? How cool is that? All right, up next is Ethel Flock Mobley. Her three brothers, Bob, Tim, and Fonty Flock, already in our Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. And she's maybe the lesser known of those siblings. I was visiting with her family here right before this and heard about their other sister, is it Rhea? Did I have that right? Rhea, who's a parachutist, is that correct? Yeah, so this family, truly daredevils, truly heroic here. And let's learn a little more about Ethel Flock Mobley here, another inductee.
I'm Anita. I'm Ethel Flock Mobley's oldest granddaughter. Unfortunately, by the time I came along, my grandmother had already stopped racing, so I never got to know her in that way because my grandfather apparently felt like it was a little unsafe, and by the time they had that second baby, she was off the road.
Ethel Flock Mobley was the sister of Tim, Bob, and Fonte Flock, also members of the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. She was the first female race car driver to compete against men in the state of Georgia. She held track records and was rated as the top female driver in the southeastern United States, winning many competitions in all-female races. Ethel had 2 NASCAR Cup Series starts, racing against her brothers Tim, Bob, and Fonte. She raced in NASCAR's second event ever on July 10, 1949. This was the very first time an event featured a brother and sister, and the first time 4 siblings raced in a single race against each other. Her brother Tim finished second in that race, but Ethel finished 11th, beating her brothers Fonte and Bob. Ethel competed in over 100 NASCAR modified events in her great career.
When you look back at the time period that she was doing this, it's amazing what she did, not just for the sport, but for women in general. Grandmother came from a very small, very poor home, and she made a great life. She ran a restaurant on a 3rd grade education, which I've always found amazing. She raised 2 girls after the death of her first husband on her own. When she met her next husband, who became my grandfather, they had boarding houses. She always worked. She was sweet. She was modest. She never spoke about this career unless you drug it out of her. But it's just been a huge honor and it's a big feat to follow in when a woman does things the way she did it. I also want to say a big thank you for this opportunity to honor my grandmother. I'm sure she would be shocked that she was here because, again, she played this down. But for her family, this means a lot. For her granddaughter, great-granddaughter, and now even great-great-granddaughters, this will be a solid place for them to come by and be proud of.
All right, this is a big deal. As many of you may know, and I may have mentioned earlier, Ethel Flock Mobley was on this list for a long time. It kept coming up just short. 41 years after her passing, it's time to get this done. So we're going to welcome to the stage. We saw Anita Hilliard up in the video there. We're going to welcome up her daughter, Deborah Mobley Perkle, no relation to Gordon Perkle, Deborah Mobley Perkle, and her daughter, Jennifer, to accept the award on Ethel Flock Mobley's behalf. Let's give them a big round of applause.
All right. Thank you so much for having us here. Again, we couldn't be any prouder than to be a part of this today. We heard a little bit about my grandmother, and again, I wish I could tell you some great racing stories. I don't have any. I have great grandmother stories about her. I will tell you one of my favorite stories that my mom used to share with me about my grandmother was really when she had to give up racing because she ran over 100 races, so it didn't go easy. But apparently my grandfather promised her a brand new Cadillac every year that she didn't race. They also had made a deal with the state troopers. They would close down a big section of highway and let my grandmother open up those cars every year. So we loved that about her, and that kind of tells you a lot about her. Thank you again for having us. We appreciate it.
Another hand for the Mobley family there. The Mobley Perkle and many other surnames. Cindy, we were talking before the show. She wanted to be sure and mention that Ethel didn't stop racing after the birth or pregnancy of her first child. It was the second child that didn't, all right? So the first one's like, we can manage. Child number 2, okay, we're done racing. But over 100 modified races, and that's no small feat, especially 70-some years ago, correct? So we're going to keep it in the NASCAR vein here, right, Steve? Because this is a name you know, for sure. But I want us to be honest with each other, because I'll be honest with you. Has anybody read Mike Helton's bio yet in the program? All right, okay, no one has. Okay, this is good response. Okay, but I knew a lot of ties that you, sir, have had to Georgia. How many people knew that he once was the GM of Atlanta Motor Speedway? Okay, I'm impressed. Here's the one I learned. I'm going to be honest. I did not know, Mike, that you used to race. and that you raced at Sonoy Raceway. Anybody else? Not okay, a few people. Okay, so I don't feel so bad. All right. With that being said, we're now going to induct former NASCAR chairman and president Mike Helton. And first, we're going to watch the video about it.
Mike Helton is one of the greatest leaders that I've ever met.
This is a man who has given his entire adult life to this sport.
It's really hard to say that NASCAR would be as far along as what it is without Mike.
He's incredible. I mean, we were so lucky as a sport to have him. He's special, just special.
Mike Helton is easily one of the most familiar faces in the NASCAR community, and his motorsports experience is multifaceted.
I started out a race fan. I'm still a race fan. I'll go away being a race fan.
Mike Helton is the one that connects with all. He can sit in a boardroom and talk with executives and CEOs to meeting the needs of a mechanic that's in the garage area and what they might have going on.
He knows this sport inside and out. He's participated in absolutely everything that we've done.
I don't know that there was one post that outranks the rest of them. I've always just enjoyed making a living in this sport.
Throughout his nearly 5-decade-long career, Helton's roles have evolved from being a track operator to various other leadership positions, including NASCAR president and NASCAR vice chairman.
I'm pleased to announce today that I have named Mike Helton Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of NASCAR, effective immediately.
He became the first person outside the France family to take over the day-to-day operations of NASCAR after becoming only the third president in the sport's history. Helton cemented NASCAR's presence in major markets, both within the United States, as well as Mexico, Canada, and Europe.
Mike was the guy that was able to pick up and guide the sport behind Bill France Jr., and he did it brilliantly.
When he's at the racetrack, all the drivers seem to mind themselves and act a little better because they all really want to please him and make him proud.
You know, he's kind of an intimidating figure, right? He's tall and he's broad-shouldered, and you know, he can kind of give you that look, and he didn't really seem like he was smiling much, especially that mustache made him look like he wasn't smiling.
I didn't want to be called into meetings with him in the holler. I mean, I remember some of those, and Mike had a way of getting across to you, hey, don't do that again. Do you understand?
I got called to the holler so much that I had my own seat in the trailer. Mike had that way of sitting you down and helping you understand this is why it has to be this way. He has that ability to have those relationships with people that nobody else has.
Everyone knew that Mike Helton was fair. No matter who you were, when you were in the sport, how long, how young, but you better believe whenever it come to it, he could set you down and straighten you out real quick.
Helton's expertise in competition directly led to the formation of the NASCAR Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina, a facility that is dedicated to strengthening NASCAR's competition and safety initiatives.
If you guys want to dump water on me, it's going to cost you a donation of $1,000 apiece.
In addition to his role as a member of NASCAR's board of directors, Helton maintains a similar role with the NASCAR Foundation.
He has a big heart, really cares about people.
Underneath the facade is someone who is a very kind and thoughtful person. But he's probably really mad at me that I just said that.
With his calming influence and strong leadership, Mike Helton's lifelong impact on motor racing cannot be measured, only admired.
I don't know of anyone in the industry, and I've been in it for 40 years, that has done more, given more. He's been a leader, he's been the rock.
It's a career that he's maintained its unblemished in his reputation, and he's been able to be successful at everything he's tried.
All of the people that he touched and helped and all of the great things that he did for us in our sport, all that praise is coming. So he better not try to disappear because he deserves all that praise.
How about it? Hey, any millennials here where this is like your formative years get hit in the feels when you see that file video from like 2008, right? You're seeing Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson. It does for me anyway. But without further ado, let's bring him up. He was the president of now Echo Park Speedway from 1980 until 86. EPS just celebrated its 65th birthday this year. Mike Helton, ladies and gentlemen.
Mike, I wasn't going to get up here and speak, but I had to think about when I was watching that video that it was all nice stuff, but none of those people had anything to do with you getting in the Hall of Fame. It was the grassroots people in the sport in Georgia that voted you in. So I think that means more than anything that NASCAR could put on you, to have grassroots people that don't really know you personally to vote you in the Hall of Fame.
Amen.
Congratulations.
Amen.
Thank you, Rick, and the other inductees today. I'm an honor to be part of your class, so thank you for letting me join you. And you come through the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, and there's a lot of museums and Hall of Fames all across the country that talk about racing. When you come to the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, one of the first things I have to smile about and remember is that when all these other places that claim to have had this route of hot rod drivers who were actually delivery vehicles for adult beverages, like in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina, I don't think anybody could stand up against Dawsonville, Georgia in this area, because what y'all figured out up here was the distribution. And then those drivers of those cars ended up taking those cars and making race cars out of them. So we've all benefited from that. When you said Echo Speedway, it threw me off a little bit. I still think of it as Atlanta International Raceway. And I grew up in Bristol and met Ed Clark while he was running Bristol Motor Speedway. And he was kind enough to not run me out of his office and listen every now and then. We'd sit and talk about stuff. And he mentioned an opportunity in Atlanta and set me up, and I come talk to the folks here and ended up putting everything I had in my car and heading to Atlanta International Raceway back then. And having known Ed all those years, Ed, I'm honored to share a spot in this hall with you. And one of the first guys I met when I got to Georgia was Randy Holt. And for over 40 years now, Randy and I have been really, really good friends. Randy was a racer of his own, laid claim in Georgia and other places, but ended up in the Racing Hall of Fame here as well. And so the two of you, I'm very grateful to share space in this building with you, but I'm especially proud to share space with every person in this hall, because everyone in here has contributed to the foundation and the development of racing. I didn't know 45 years ago what was going to happen, and we've been really lucky along the way. The second smartest thing I did was listening to Ed Clark. The smartest thing I did was when I had the opportunity to go to work for the France family in Daytona in 1986. And ever since then, just their passion for and their heartfelt sincerity around racing. Yes, it includes NASCAR or IMSA or the other products, but racing, the health of racing in general, is what the France family has taught everybody that works for NASCAR to be aware of and support and grow with every effort you can make. And that's been a big influence on me, because I was a race fan and I'll always be a race fan. And Rick, I agree with you that whatever might happen in Charlotte, North Carolina with champions and fancy car owners and everything, that's okay. But everything we do in the NASCAR world, whether it's Cup or Xfinity or trucks or any other of our products, but if you take the Cup Series, which a lot of people follow, everything we do today starts at the grassroots level. You don't have NASCAR without the tracks and the heroes that are in this building that helped build the sport over time. You just don't have that. So my wife Linda's not here today. She's had some illnesses, and we thought she was going to make it and couldn't make it at the end. I mentioned the France family and how grateful I am and how proud I've been to learn from Bill France Jr. and Jim France and the next generations of the France family that really truly love this sport. But I'm sorry Linda's not here, but she and our families are the ones that made the sacrifice for me to go off and do what I've done for all these years. And I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for this honor. I'm grateful to be recognized. I don't deserve it in my mind. I'm actually humbled by it. But I will tell you, I'm really proud to share space in a building in Dawsonville, Georgia, with a lot of names that I've studied about. Some of them I knew. A lot of them I got to sit and talk about, and it was a first-person story of the beginning of our sport. And all that is in this building. And so when Cindy earlier asked to think about supporting this, I think it's on all of us to give whatever we can to help keep it going, because that's the way you keep stock car racing relevant for generations to come. Not just what we've had the ability to enjoy. We were caretakers along the way. Now it's our responsibility to be sure that the next generations get the same opportunities that we had. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be in it.
I think Rick Minner and I could say that we have just had one of those infamous meetings with Mike Helton in the Winston Cup hauler. There you go. Y'all know what I'm talking about, the people that get in trouble after the race a long time ago. All right. That's incredible there. What a legacy at Georgia, from the administrative side all the way down to the short tracks. And I love the point that Rick made, that it's a real honor when you get buy-in from the grassroots level. It truly is. And up next, another one, our fourth inductee here in no particular order in the 2025 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. It is Bob Morris, another longtime racer here. Let's learn some more about Bob Morris.
When he was a teenager in Red Oak, Georgia, his dad raced at some of the local dirt tracks.
If I'm not mistaken, his daddy had a race car, and I'm pretty sure that he stole it from his daddy and went racing. I think his favorite track was probably Coweta Raceway.
The very first year that it ran, he won the A Sportsman Championship. He won a lot of races there.
I think his second favorite was probably the Peach Bowl. A lot of times won both of them the same weekend. It was just cool they could switch back and forth and not change nothing but the tires on the car.
The car that probably stands out more than any of them was the 1956 57 Thunderbird. It was two T-Birds made into one car from two wrecked cars. And that car pretty much dominated when it raced for the 2 years he raced it. One in particular I remember was against Charlie Mincy at Sonora. Charlie Mincy at the time was winning everything. And in that Mustang, him and Charlie ran side by side the entire 50-lap feature. And Bob eked it out there at the end and won. He was in the Army during the Korean War, but he was not supposed to be racing while he was in the Army. But there was a lot of dirt tracks around North Carolina at that time, and so he did a lot of racing under an assumed name. He worked on the line at Ford Motor Company and then became a supervisor and a test driver at the plant in Hateville, Georgia. And then he opened up his own shop in East Point called Tri-City Car and Car Service. I helped him there for years. Him and his brother Jack ran that place.
When I started racing, went to a party somewhere and somebody said they were starting a new class at Sonora Raceway. So I left the party, went home, stripped the car down, raced the next night. We were lucky enough to win with it. We didn't start that with the idea of let's carry on a legacy. It's just we were brought up in racing, and that's what guys do, you know, to us. And basically I just never quit. I was lucky enough to where I've won some championships at the same place as my dad has, and obviously won races there. One of the best races that I look back on, Daddy was a big Bill Elliott fan, and Bill Elliott showed up. We were lucky enough to win it. Bill finished third, and Daddy just couldn't believe it. I'm sure he was proud of that. I know he wasn't a professional dirt racer, but neither was I, so we kind of were on equal footing.
It's an honor. I can't even put into words how much it is to have him in this and be remembered this way.
It's really, really an honor to have my dad in the Hall of Fame. I hope that he's remembered for being a family man, then a racer, rather than a racer that put his family second, because that meant a lot to us.
So my notes are right here. Bob raced from 1949 till 1972. Relatively short time in comparison to Fulmer Lance, right? But in that time, he won dozens of races all over the state of Georgia. And as you saw in the video, his son Glenn there still races at Sonoy Raceway. So we're going to invite both Scott and Glenn Morris up, his sons, to accept Bob Morris's induction into the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame.
I think the last person that would ever expect to have been inducted into the Hall of Fame was Bob Morris. He just would not be able to understand that. He was just a local racer. He didn't travel all around the country. And to have this honor is just beyond words. He was born in 1933, started racing as a young teenager. As Glenn said, he stole his father's race car. And he raced until the Korean War, and he joined as a paratrooper for the 101st Airborne. He did race in North Carolina, places like Champion Raceway, Ocean Raceway, Goldsboro Raceway, which is still there behind the machine shop. And then after the war was over, after his tour of service was over, he came home and resumed racing again, Beach Bowl, LaGrange. He drove a car that originally belonged to Lee Petty. A guy named Harry Sullivan owned it, and they started racing that car around all the dirt tracks, Beach Bowl. And then Coweta Raceway opened, and his form of racing was always dirt. He loved dirt track racing. So he built a 37 Ford, first year, won the A Sportsman Championship by enough that he actually had enough points, because the next to last race, the car was totaled, and yet he still won the championship. But he already was building the T-Bird and won a bunch of races with the T-Bird. And then the Mustang came along. That was my favorite car. And that car was pretty much destroyed at Sonoa. He wound up flipping all the way down the backstretch, but finished the season with it. And then he built a Fairlane, raced that for 2 years. Not as much success with that car as the others, but the sport was changing by then. It was becoming a lot more expensive. A lot more money was coming into the sport. So he decided it was a good time to get out. Well, then two drag racers decided to build a dirt track car. And somehow my father got involved in that and drove it. Well, the very first night at Sonoa, the car's throttle hung going into turn 3, and he went straight into the wall, and that was the end of his racing career at Sonoa. He, a few years after that, developed Alzheimer's and passed away in 1999. I just cannot thank the Hall of Fame enough for this honor. We never, ever expected it. Thank you.
It's only 2 minutes worth. It looks like a lot, but it's not. I want to start out by saying thank you to Gordon Perkle, David Sosby. Gordon Perkle's got some cool hair, don't he? Sure enough. I need some help with it. Where am I at here? I hate to admit that I hadn't been here before a few weeks ago when we came up here and talked to Cindy Elliott about all this Hall of Fame stuff. I knew he was in the running a few times, but when he finally got in, I was kind of surprised. Mays Massey called me or texted me and said, "Congratulations on your dad being in the Hall of Fame." I cried like a 5-year-old. I mean, it meant so much. I really had no idea. I mean, I've seen this place on Facebook, some pictures and stuff like that. Had no idea how impressive it really is. I mean, anybody that's my age that's followed racing for a long time, they just have no idea what's in store for them. I'm going to do my best to get as many people up here as possible. I also want to thank the voters who allowed us the honor of having our dad in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to everybody else that got in tonight. It's a big deal to my family, and I'm sure it's a big deal to y'all's also. Where am I at here? I'm not going to stand up here and say that my dad was the best race car driver ever. He was really good. I mean, he was really good for a local guy. Was he good enough to race for a living? I don't, we'll never know. Because for him, the family was more important than driving a race car and chasing his dreams to see how far he could get. He raced against some of the best in the Southeast, a lot of them that are already here. This part of the story sounds almost like Fulmer Lance's family, almost like we collaborated on saying the same thing. Drivers like Charlie Mincy, Leon Sells, Leon Archer, Billy Clanton, Jody Ridley, Roscoe Smith, and even back in the Peach Bowl days when he ran there, Jack Jackson, Gober Sosby. And at some point in his career, he outran all of them. He didn't outrun them all the time, but at some point he outran each and every one of them. So it did put him in a pretty good class of drivers. I remember looking at some old photo albums from back when he raced at Peach Bowl and LaGrange, and it seemed like he won all the time. I mean, it seemed like he won every race that he went to. And then as I got older, I realized that people don't put clippings and pictures in their photo albums for races that they finished 10th. So obviously it looked like it did because that's all it was posted, but in reality he probably just won his fair share. I'm almost done. Anyway, racing never took away from our family. If anything, back in the day, compared to what it cost actually to race, it allowed us to have some really cool stuff. I think he might have made more money racing than he did working, but he never quit working. They really did. It paid a lot back then compared to what they had in the cars. The house we lived in didn't have air conditioning, no central air anyway. It had one in my parents' room. They wouldn't let us have it. But it had a big old pool in the backyard. And for a bunch of 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, a pool was way cooler than air conditioning. My mom, thanks to racing, was the first one in the neighborhood with a side-by-side refrigerator. It even had an ice maker in the door. So anyway, I'm fixing to wrap it up. All I'm getting at is for a man that served his country as a paratrooper in the Army, went to work at Ford Motor Company until he decided to start his own automotive repair business that supported his family for many years. He built all the race cars he had in a little small garage in our backyard. We raced every weekend and all the way up to being inducted into the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. I sure am proud to be Bob Morris's son.
How about one more round of applause for Scott and Glenn Morris on behalf of Bob Morris? Heck yeah. That's it, right? Oh no, there's more. There's one more. I want to take this time to remind either our living inductees or the families of those that accepted on behalf. There's going to be a group picture with Tom right back by your exhibits that are on display just that way. Okay? So be sure to do that right after. You're going to want to hold on to that for sure. And without further ado, we come up to our, in no particular order, of course, but the last of our 5 inductees here, and that is Blairsville, Georgia's Johnny Thomas. Take a look.
Well, I love racing when I was a little fella, but I started drag racing on the highway and on the racetracks at Silva, North Carolina. And Jackie Jones came to me and told me, he said, why don't you get you a dirt car and drive dirt? And so we did that. Won my first race at Gilmer County. There's a story about that with my dad. I told him I was gonna buy me a race car, and he said, you're not gonna drive no race car. I went and bought it anyway. He come by and he said, I told you you're not driving no race car. I said, Okay, I got a driver. So I took the thing 50 miles away, so I thought he wouldn't be there. And when I pulled out on the racetrack, he's sitting up there watching. So we won the race, and he never said another word about whether I could or could not do it.
Everybody knew Dad. That was the biggest thing, was that there wasn't usually a face that didn't know him. And so I think it was more the connection that it gave us that I remember the most out of Dad racing, was just the bond that it created between us. I loved that had that bond for us, and we always enjoyed being there. There was not a time that I wanted to miss. Many of nights, can I remember even Mom staying home, and I would tag along to the racetrack. So we always had a huge group of people with us. Like, we were always surrounded by friends and family, and that was probably one of the best things, is just the family and friends and community that we had at the racetrack.
I won the last race, the only race I ever won at Dixie Speedway. Finally won my last race, and that's when I quit.
Well, on the track, Dad was very talented, first and foremost, but he also had a temper. We won't lie about that. But that was the fire that made him a winner. Really, it was. Like, I loved that softer side, but also it fueled everything, because he could be that person on the racetrack that he didn't want to be off the racetrack. I believe one of the last races that Dad raced, he was in a crate motor car, and we were at Chatsworth, and Jonathan Davenport was there racing, and something happened to his drive shaft. I don't know, it broke. And Dad was like, well, take my drive shaft out and put it in his car so that he can race. So as far as giving his shirt off his back, like, he gave the drive shaft out of his car so that another racer could race. And even now, my little boy races and my dad owns his car, and that community goes along with that too. And I mean, we go places now, and people know Dad for what he did when we were little, and now he's getting to relive that through my little boy.
I've been to the racetrack, but I didn't have money to get home. Everybody else would go home, and I'd work on the car all night and go back the next night. I just unlimited hours of what I put in racing, and I miss it every hour. Got my grandson racing now. He's doing real good, so we're gonna push him for a while, see what he can do.
This has been more special to my dad than we could have ever put in words. My dad doesn't show emotion that often, and he definitely doesn't show anxiety often, but you could tell when we decided to nominate him this year that it was something that was going to be really big for him if he got this honor. And so I'm just really excited, one, that he is still at a place where he gets to experience it and enjoy it and soak it in, but also that we as a family get to be here with him and watch him be honored in this way, because he deserves it so much.
Such an honor to be with some of these other people that's in this thing. I hope I deserve it. Such an honor to be in this thing.
Right. So I'm reading the same notes you are, but I think it's incredible. 250 or so feature wins over a career, and helped operate or own racetracks in North Carolina and Georgia, Tri-County Racetrack at Blue Ridge, and opened up Lost Creek Raceway, a go-kart track at Blairsville, to help young racers get their deal going. That's incredible. It's community, it's helping other people, and of course, it's driving a mighty wheel. Let's bring up Johnny Thomas to the 2025 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame.
Blessed to be here. Couldn't be any better honor to be anywhere than right here today. Had a lot of good people behind me. Some of them are here, and probably want to recognize them in a few minutes. Just like to thank Cindy for putting this thing on, all her help. And like to thank my wife, my daughters for being there through the good times and the bad times. Like to thank all the people that voted me in. Like to thank Billy Blue and Jackie Jones for really pushing this thing. And Billy Blue was with me when I was about 14-year-old. driving me home when I was too tired to drive home, pulling the race car. So he's been there for a while. I'd like to thank and appreciate Sonny Callahan. If y'all could let Sonny stand. He's one of the last ones I drove for. Him and Paul Anderson. Matt, if Matt would stand up, that's Paul's son. Two of the people that I drove for here today. I also like to thank Alvin Ledford, Rick Coulter, and Randall Twiggs. We had a lot of success driving for these people. Tony Clements and Glenn Clements, I guess everybody's about heard of the Clements racing engines. And I drove for them in their race car for a while, and unreal engines. We had engines better than anybody else's. Just want to let you know that I'm Fulmer's cousin. I started with Fulmer, changing more gears than anybody can imagine. Robbie was one of the grease monkeys too. He did a lot of help too. I was, of course, told most of my stories on the thing up here about Jackie. Told me to get me a dirt car, and we did, and started from there. Of course, my dad told me I wasn't going to race. Well, I listened to that real good. But I thought he'd kill me, but I looked up in the stands and there he sat. We won the race that night, and he never said anything else. So, and there's another craziest person in the world here tonight. Stand up, Plot. Stand up, Plot. Cleveland, Tennessee one night, we're drying the track out, so Plot wants to ride with me. So they start to drying the track out, they start hot laps. Plot gets to enjoy hot laps while we're sitting in the floorboard. No seat, no helmet, no seat belts or anything. Billy has been a big inspiration to me in racing because he loves racing, I guess, as much as anybody. And all the people that's put this on, it's great. Couldn't be any better. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me, and appreciate being here.
One more time for Johnny Thomas and his great crew over here. That includes recent inductee Billy Ballou from a few years ago. All right, that's everybody. But before we completely exhale and let our hair down, I want you to look around this room. And I say this every year because I think it's important. And we went down memory lane a few minutes ago. Y'all remember? This is probably the only time this exact collection of people is going to be together in the same room. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I want you to enjoy it one last time. This is really special to be in the same room with not only the inductees themselves, but the people that are important to them, and the people that are important to them, people that are important to them, if you will. And that includes our volunteers and our staff here at the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, all the people, and Steve and his team over there that put it together. So I want to give all the people that put it together and yourselves, each other, a big round of applause. This has been a huge day. All right. If you go to GeorgiaRacingHOF.com, I always have to look up the URL, okay, because I want to abbreviate the wrong part. GeorgiaRacingHOF.com. You can learn about all other elements of the Hall of Fame, regular business hours, the racing simulators that opened less than a year ago, the events that are going on, their various car shows, not the least of which, and maybe our marquee event besides the Hall of Fame induction, is the Dawsonville Moonshine Festival. All of that, GeorgiaRacingHOF.com. The distilleries just opened out front here recent times. Be sure to check it all out. And with that said, I want you all to drive safely. God bless you. And again, congratulations to our inductees, all right? Remember, inductees, you got your group photo in the back with Tom. Thank you. My name's Doug. For Cindy and the staff, have a good one. We'll see you.